Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So today I'll be speaking about certain things, and that these are basically unlawful things that are very popular in Islam, the things that are known to be forbidden. However, there are many leeways that legislation offers. When I say legislative leeways, I mean the Sharia. So I have a list of paper, I've listed them, and I will be now mentioning them. The first one I'd like to mention is gold. Barakallahu feekum. With regards to gold, it is definitely prohibited to use gold. In fact, it is not allowed for men to wear gold jewelry, nor silver, by the way. And it is not allowed for men and women to use gold and silver utensils or any other instrument, even a golden pen. This also includes golden bathtubs, etc. However, if we're talking about gold-plated items, then there is a condition for it to be impermissible, and that is that if it was to be smelted or melted, then the gold will not retain its value. So if the gold retains its value, that means it will be prohibited, impermissible. However, if the gold does not retain its value, then it would be allowed. The same thing goes with silver. As for silver, there is also another specific thing I'd like to mention. If, let's say, someone was to break a vase or any other utensil or object which he wishes to repair and he uses silver, then it will be allowed for him. However, if he used it for reasons like, if he used it to design the utensil, even if he was to repair it, he would also design it, or he would use a lot of silver while repairing it, then it would be disliked. And if he was to use that silver to design it and use a lot of it, so there is also design and the amount together, if there are both are present, then therefore such usage of silver would be prohibited. Another thing I'd like to mention is music. You know what? I'll mention silk first. Silk is prohibited in the Sharia. It's only allowed for women to wear silk. However, many do not know that it is allowed to wear clothing which has 50% silk and 50% any other material like cotton, wool, etc. 50% or less. Also, it's allowed to wear clothing where there is tatrif, which is basically silk at the borders of the clothing, at the cuffs or near the ankles, and then also tatriz is allowed, which is basically wearing a thobe or a garment and having a patch of silver stitched upon it. My bad, not silver, silk. Having a patch of silk stitched upon, as long as it is not more than the width of 4 fingers, with regards to tatriz. Another thing I'd like to mention is alcohol. My apologies. So alcohol, we all know that it is prohibited. However, one thing I'd like to mention with regards to alcohol is that if we're talking about synthetic alcohol, then that would not be considered filth nor prohibited if consumed for the purpose of treatment or for the purpose of perfumery, fragrance, to spray fragrance on oneself. Barakallahu feekum. Also, if that alcohol was to be solid, or if it was any other substance which makes someone dizzy or something, then that would be considered prohibited. However, the had would not be applied. The had is only applied upon the consumption of liquid alcohol. Another thing I'd like to mention is that alcohol, it is prohibited even in small amounts. However, any other substance which causes the person to lose consciousness, etc., like for example marijuana, etc., now they are allowed in small amounts as long as they do not cause the person to become high, as they say, or lose consciousness, etc. just like the consumption of opium seeds in some villages, or the consumption of nutmeg. But if they're used for recreational purposes, as in to get high, etc., then such products would be prohibited. Like the use of marijuana porridge, just for consumption, not for recreational, not to get high or something, but to get nutrition or food or for treatment, etc. Another thing I'd like to mention is music. Now, music is prohibited. Musical instruments are prohibited. There is a consensus on that. However, if you were to be in an elevator or in a supermarket and you hear a melody being played, then you are not in a state of sin, because there is a difference between a sami', the one who is hearing it, who is not a sinner, and al mustami', the one who is listening to it for entertainment purposes. Such an individual would be sinning. Another thing I'd like to mention is drums. Now, there are many musical instruments and they all are prohibited, with the exception of the tabla, which is a one-sided drum. However, in the Shafi'i school, they include all drums, as long as these drums are not used for entertainment purposes. So to use drums for warfare or for a wedding, etc., would be permitted, allowed. Barakallahu fikum. Something else I'd like to mention is, hold on for a second. Another thing that, another thing I'd like to mention is dancing. Dancing is disliked heavily. However, it is allowed for a man to dance with certain conditions, like if he is not, my apologies, 1 second. If he was not to imitate the heretics or the disbelievers by dancing a certain dance, or nor dancing seductively, nor dancing with women, nor dancing with music on, then, with these certain conditions, nor dancing like a woman, then with these conditions, it would be permitted to dance, However, he would not, his testimony would be rejected in court, because he would be deemed unmanly. Barakallahu fikum. Same thing with women, except with not only with these conditions, but it's not allowed for a woman to dance in front of men, except her husband. Then we have the dogs. Now, dogs are prohibited to own, except if they're being used for hunting, guarding, helping the blind, etc. They have a useful purpose. Then it will be allowed to keep dogs, and dogs are not to be killed except for the rabid dog or the biting vicious dog who afflicted by some other problems, psychological problems or diseases, etc. Such dogs, they are to be killed by the government, not by individuals, right? This is strictly restricted to government actions. All right. Okay. And however, these dogs are not to be kept home. They're not allowed to be kept home. All right, that's clear. Then we have what else do we have? Meat. Meat is with regards to meat, it is allowed to eat meat slaughtered by Christians and Jews, even if they do not say the name of God before slaughtering, as long as they slaughter it correctly by, according to Sharia legislation, according to the Shari slaughter, like slaughtering the throat, etc., cutting the veins, the jugular, while slaughtering a goat, ram, etc. However, if they do not mention the name of God, it will still be deemed permissible, even if a Muslim doesn't mention it, because in our school, saying the name of Allah, the name of Allah is only recommended. It is not obligatory. Barakallahu fikum. Then we have something called the awra, that nakedness, private parts. So I wanted to talk about this. Many think that awra includes the shape. Yes, it is very, very, important to cover the shape, especially for the women. She's not supposed to expose the shape of her body, especially, certain regions. However, it would not be considered a sin to do so. It is only very, very disliked. However, showing the color of the skin, etc., is prohibited completely. All right. Lastly, we have what else do we have? Let's have Lastly, we have standing while eating, which is allowed but very disliked. Person can stand and eat. He does not have to sit. He does not have to squat. There is no place to sit. He may stand. He may walk while eating and drinking. However, it's very disliked. And if a seat is available, then he should be sitting. However, it's not haram not to be sitting, even if a seat is available. Well, that's all about. That's about it. Barakallahu fikum. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask. If you have any more issues, right, do mention them so I can have a look whether I can make things easier for you or not. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.